welcome back to Modern Monarchy, episode 5. Let's go. Today we're going to talk about our best buddy, King Charles, which we did not speak very kindly of him in the last episode because we were talking about Diana, and I literally...
No, last time we talked about fashion.
Oh, well, the last time... We didn't really, we kind of talked about Charles in fashion in like the black tie, white tie business, but
A little bit.
we didn't talk about it too much.
No, but you said in the last episode. In the last episode was
Oh,
that
sorry.
fashion.
I meant last time we spoke about him in depth.
Fair.
It was not great.
I just don't want people to be confused. For the very many viewers that we have,
Yes, all of them.
I don't want them to be confused.
We have one subscriber who actually watches our stuff. Hello, subscriber. I don't know which one you are. But if you want to comment and say hi back to us, comments help for engagement.
The algorithm likes that.
Yeah.
That's why us idiots are always like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. I try not to do that till the end of the episode because I figure if you've actually sat here for 3 to 4 hours,
somebody's putting us on to go to sleep at night, I bet.
Maybe you might like. You might like.
You.
And at that point, you've probably forgotten that it does help the algorithm if you actually physically like and subscribe and or comment.
Instead of emotionally liking.
Yeah. Because we can't tell.
We can't use that.
You can't hear that. Hello? Hello? So, we're going to talk about Charles. I keep wanting to call him like Chuck or Charlie, and I don't know why I can't just say Charles.
Especially because none of those things fit that man whatsoever.
No, King Chuck? No.
That sounds like some sort of like Midwestern restaurant.
Well, okay.
Like a steakhouse.
I feel kind of not. I don't know if I feel bad. I was gonna say I kind of feel bad that when you talk about him in relation to Diana, it's bad. It's real bad.
Well,
he does not come across well because he made a lot of super poor decisions.
That's a kind way to put it, yeah.
I only put it in a kind way because, like, if you just look at him and the rest of his life, you're like, how is this man the same person?
Who did that?
Who did that to a person that he married and made his wife and mother of his children?
But also, okay, just throwing it out there, and I know we haven't gotten into it yet, but, like, we did talk about with her family specifically, and this seems to be the thing where it's like, nobody talks about their feelings. There's no, like, training for emotional intelligence. It's all around, like, how to be a royal. But there's not...
I think we'll notice more of that whenever he talks about things in his life that are uncomfortable or were not fun for him. He tries to put, like, a positive spin on it so that, maybe so other people aren't going to get crapped on in the press or something. He's just like, or maybe it's how he deals with things that didn't go well, is he just kind of avoids them.
Yeah. And it just comes off as a bad look.
It's not great.
We really like emotional intelligence in today's day and age, especially from men.
Yeah, and then at the same time, I'm like, it's a little hard to expect that of people who are living at a time where nobody expected emotional intelligence.
Exactly. Yeah, no, totally. Because this also, was, oh my God, 30 years ago?
A long time ago.
40?
Yeah. Like, even myself, I was born in 88 and I grew up in the 90s, and I could tell you that we were not kind to each other at all. And I feel like we've all had to, like, change as people and try to better ourselves and be more aware of how we make other people feel as we grow up. and hopefully get to a more progressive society, even though there's backlash on empathy right now, and I don't understand that. That's
I know.
crazy.
God forbid. You
Okay,
know, God,
so
Jesus, the people who preach love, tolerance.
let's not bring them into this again.
I was gonna say, but going back to Charles.
Oh, yep, yep. Okay, let's get into the news section. I was gonna say real quick, except you know that I did a deep dive. So we have one news topic.
When have we ever done anything real quick? The answer is
Now,
never.
I, and then even when I've like gone deep and then retracted information, I still feel like I did too much. And then you still have questions I didn't even think of.
It's so funny. I was actually talking to my friend about this because I was like, I always ask the most ridiculous questions. Like, I'm like, I know that Jen has researched this thing from like top to bottom, and yet I still am like, why are there strings on the purses?
Why are there strings?
And you're like, I don't know. I've answered every other question. I
I,
don't know why
I,
there are strings. No, they don't put them on their necks.
I don't know if you can see it in my reaction though, that but my brain is like, I want to know too. Why are there strings?
That's what I'm
Okay.
here for. To
Yeah.
be the
If you
intelligent.
if you see any strings that are questionable, point them out.
We are part cat here, apparently.
Yeah. Okay. So we're moving into our one news topic, which is our buddy Harry. Yay!
Amazing.
Did you hear about his the case he had against Radhick, the people who decide who gets what security in the UK?
So I loosely am aware of this that like he was trying to get protection,
Mm-hmm.
and they said no. You said you wanted
And they
out.
said, nah.
Like you said you didn't want any part of this, so no thank you.
Right. So we're gonna obviously get more into it. I just wanted to start with this little bit that came out a couple days ago where he got caught on a Ring door cam in London going down the street. He was just ringing doors trying to find his friend's house. A, I don't see anybody tailing him, so you think he would be surrounded by paparazzi the way he talks about things. He's clearly not that worried about security if you are ding dong ditching people. Like, what are you doing? And then I think at this house, the only reason they went back on their door cam and found this picture is because their housekeeper had opened the door, didn't recognize him, didn't know who he was, which is hilarious to me.
I was gonna say like love it, fabulous.
And then they told the person, they told the owner of the house that somebody had shown up and they were looking for a friend's house, and they were like, "That's weird." So I guess they went back on the camera to see who it was. And lo and behold, Prince Harry,
You
the
rang, my
man
lord.
who is deathly afraid to bring his family to the UK because they'll get murdered in the streets.
Is that what he said?
He says it in a roundabout way, more of like people want history to repeat itself, aka he thinks the paparazzi killed his mother. Like they just hunted her down and were trying to make something bad happen to her. And he thinks it's going to happen again to him and his family.
That sounds like paranoia.
Yeah, and then he thinks the fact that he doesn't get his special security is because people want that to happen.
No, you just said you don't want to be part of the family.
You don't have the job, you don't get the benefits.
Right? Okay.
Okay, so he does this interview directly after the verdict is out.
Where
I've
is
heard
this?
it is somewhere in California.
Okay.
Because that's an American BBC interviewer.
I'm just looking at these like
Oh, like the blankets on the walls and stuff.
yes.
It's not
But
very England to you.
well, it feels very like Mexico.
Yeah.
Like
My thing is, I want to know what's on the picture on the wall because it looks, I don't know, looks like beats, money.
it looks like money to me, but also not.
Yeah,
Weird.
it's not important. But again, this is what happens with
I was gonna say, I'm like, we're missing the forest for the trees.
us. I should have just done a picture of his face.
Probably.
I invited this.
God damn it! Now she's just looking at the decor.
So, the verdict came, it was actually an appeal after the case. So the case has already been done, and they said no. And his lawyers were like, we could do an appeal. And Harry was like, yeah, let's do that. And then they said, still no. Go away. Um, and in this interview, Harry says something like, I wish somebody had told me that I had no chance of winning this. And I was like, well, don't you think maybe that was your lawyers just trying to get more money out of a very popular case?
You're right.
Maybe you should have gotten a second opinion. I also think your lawyers helped propagate this paranoia that you have in order to encourage you to keep trying to fight this. I'm just saying you're surrounding yourself with people who probably don't have your best interests at heart.
Likely, yes, correct.
Okay, so the case was against Ravik, which is a group of the government that is, well, the government and the police that decide who gets which security. They do risk assessments, all that stuff. Um, Ravik it stands for Royal and VIP Executive Committee. Emphasis on the VIP part because not that's people who aren't royals or elected officials, but are just like people that are in the public eye that if something were to happen to them on UK soil, it would impact their reputation.
Such as whom?
I don't have any specifics on that one
Okay,
because Harry does a lot of these. There are examples of, but he never gives us examples of.
got it.
Harry and Meghan said there's precedent for royals to do a half in, half out and still get full security, but they never tell you who are you talking about because I can't think of a single one. Like,
Mhm.
um, I put on. It was just funny in the interview how he was like, if the public ever found out that they don't just cover the royal family and elected officials, they would think again about how my case is going. And I was like, it's in the name, my guy. It just says Royal and VIP Executive Committee. Like, maybe you didn't know that. Like, if you did 5 seconds of Googling, you would know that. But he doesn't. He just goes along with whatever his fun lawyers tell him. So he claims that he's being treated differently from everyone else. Like, people hate him and they don't want him to have the highest level of security. So he doesn't have no security. It's just that every time he goes to the UK, he has to give them 28 days notice so that they can decide what he needs for what he's going to do and where he's going to be. Because he doesn't live there. So there's no point to constantly have
Just
somebody at the
keep
ready.
somebody.
Yeah. At first, he used to think that having his security taken away from him, and when we say having his security taken away from him, I want it to be specifically known that he is talking about his IPP status, internationally protected persons, which is like top of the top. If you go to any country that has signed the United Nations Protection of Diplomats Convention, they have to pay for your state funded security, which would also include the United States. Very convenient. But there is also some talk about whether or not, if he had IPP status but he doesn't live in the UK, would the UK be having to pay for British officers to relocate to California and follow them around? Because
Mm,
that would be really fucking expensive.
right.
And it's either that or everywhere you go, you're going like, "Hey, I'm here. Where's my security? I want your taxpayers to pay for that. Thanks, bye."
Woo.
So he used to think it was a punishment for leaving the royal family. Now, in this interview, and a few weeks ago, he said it in a newspaper somewhere. He thinks that security is being used to control members of the royal family, as in, like, if you leave, you no longer get this security, so don't fucking leave.
Hmm.
Um, he says that, and then he follows up with, "In fact, I know that to be true." So that's wild because I'm pretty sure nobody with the actual powers to do that would have told you that, because that would be the only way you would know for a fact
Right.
that's what they're doing. Then he also says something about, he says, "If anything was to happen to me, my wife, or," and he literally takes a beat to pause, "to me, my wife, or my father's grandchildren, look where the responsibility lies." Manipulation much?
I was gonna say, I'm like the guy that like you haven't seen, you aren't talking to.
Yeah, it's how you, in the mid sentence, go from "me, my wife," and then you would say "my kids." But
Right.
he had to stop and go, "my father's grandchildren." Dad, I know you're listening right now.
Exactly.
Gross.
Because like
Uh,
again, you don't just say my children. Like
right.
you have to be very intentional about that.
He literally paused mid sentence to
But the thing
stop.
is, like, even if he didn't pause,
Yeah.
the way that like he said myself, my wife, and my father's grandchildren. Like there's even if there's no pause.
It's so gross.
Ugh.
So gross. Harry says that this bespoke security that he gets is more of an either or. Like, you either get security or you get a phone number to a guy who could help you in a bind.
Okay, Liam Neeson.
I think what is actually happening is, if you're invited to a royal residence, you're going to have royal security because you are on premises. But if you just want to go visit your friends, you bring your own security that you paid for, and you have a phone number to Ravik should you need to escalate to, "I need the police here, and I'm Prince Harry. This is not a typical situation."
I'm special.
but you still have your own security. No one's saying you can't bring your security.
Right.
He says that private security isn't enough because they can't have guns. They don't have access to the same intelligence that the police have, which I don't know what kind of intelligence you need to go visit your friends.
Maybe they're not friends.
Like, he says he has threats from Al Qaeda, which they were in the news directly after his book Spare came out, and he directly gave the number of how many Al Qaeda he had killed in
Oh,
Afghanistan. So that was your fault.
I was gonna say, I'm like, you don't get to be upset when the other kids call you out for murdering their friends.
That, and I don't think that they're keeping constant vigilance on where you are, and they're going to show up at your friend's house and kill you.
Right.
Um, he said that the other problem with private security is that they don't have jurisdiction in a foreign country, which and it opens up a whole other list of questions. What are you having your security? You want them to arrest people? Is that what you want? You want them to be
Right.
able to shoot people with the guns that they can't have? Um, if you had British security on American soil, they wouldn't have jurisdiction. So, really, you want your IPP status. You want American taxpayers to pay for your security while you're living in America. And then when you visit the UK, have the British taxpayers pay for your security. And just everywhere you go,
Somebody
taxpayers
else
pay for
fits
your
the
security.
bill.
Yeah. He says police protection is effective protection. My grandmother made very clear that we needed. So that was a direct quote. So if I read it weirdly, that was a
No, no,
direct
I
quote.
understand that, but I'm like, okay.
My question was, who's we? Was your grandmother saying police protection is preferred for the royal family? Because, duh. I, do you mean she meant that for you, like your little family specifically? Are you trying to say that at there was a Sandringham summit before Harry and Meghan left, where Harry and Charles, William, the Queen, and some staff were in a room, and they just like they hashed out how this was going to be, how they were going to leave, if they were going to do just take a vacation, if they were going to break off from the family, if they were going to try to do a half in, half out. They all discussed it at this summit. Is he trying to say that during that meeting, she said that Harry and his family need police protection? Because we're gonna go into Megxit in a few seconds here. Um, because I've never really broken it down on a timeline basis. I just kind of like knew what had happened. It all happened before I started this modern monarchy thing, before I started getting nosy. Oh. And
Had to
yeah,
fix
I went
that.
down a rabbit hole. So who has what security? The king, the queen, and the Wales family. So Prince and Princess of and their children. They're the only ones that get 24/7 police protection. Everybody else, if you're a working royal, you get police protection when you're doing official duties and engagements. You don't get it at home. You can pay for your own security wherever you are, but you're not getting taxpayer funded stuff unless you're on the job.
Which is actually decent. Like that feels fair to me.
Right. So like you have Anne, who is King Charles's sister, always known as the hardest working royal, always does the most engagements out of anybody. She is a full-time royal and she does not have IPP status.
Right.
You, sir, do nothing for the family. You live in America on literally the other side of the planet.
And actually have made part of your name off of leaving the family.
Yeah, a good chunk of money to pay for security. So if you have your IPP status, which means you're getting it 24/7, once a year, they do an evaluation. So the last time Harry had an evaluation was in 2020, right before he left. He said the last evaluation he had, the way he words this is weird again. Big surprise. Um, so he was evaluated in 2020, and he claims that he was evaluated to have the highest risk of the family, and that overnight was reduced to the lowest without actually going through the risk management board, and that he hasn't had another assessment since he left in 2020. So he's somehow taken, like, he hasn't had an assessment, but he also says that he went from the highest risk to the lowest risk. Wouldn't you have to be assessed again
Right.
to be told you're at the lowest risk? Or are we just assuming that because you haven't been assessed that they just deem you not worthy of it? I'm
Which
just saying we're dealing with somebody who's probably not that bright.
you said it, not me.
Ah, I get so frustrated with him. So here's my thing. He's had IPP status his whole life, being the son of the Prince of Wales, and now the son of the king. Well, he wasn't the son of the king when he left, but he was the son of the Prince of Wales his entire life. He had IPP status. He got evaluated once a year. You move to the other side of the planet, you leave the royal family. Of course, they're not going to assess you once a year.
Right.
What do you think that they're doing when you tell them a month in advance you're coming over? Do you think they're just like, oh, cool, thanks for letting us know that you're showing up in 4 weeks. We're
See
just
you
gonna
then.
sit here. We're just gonna hang out here and wait for you to show up. They're assessing the risk of you, the place you're going, the people you're gonna see, so that they can decide what kind of security you need. I don't think this is that hard to comprehend.
I mean, clearly he just thinks you have to give them your itinerary. Like when you remember when you used to have to tell the bank you were traveling? They didn't
Oh
give a
yeah.
fuck. They didn't do anything.
No.
They just
I
needed
think
to know so they didn't shut your card off.
yeah. They don't do that anymore.
No, they don't. They don't really give a fuck. But I think it's also
Like,
because people buy stuff online, so it's kind of hard.
oh yeah, that's true. I was like, because I traveled really far away and in the same day use my card 3,000 miles apart.
Right?
No, nobody flags that.
Yeah, I have to imagine it's because we buy stuff online now.
Yeah.
But anyways,
So yeah,
he's not smart. He's not.
I think it's a combination of him not being smart and also using this to manipulate the public and trying to like get them on his side about this, which I don't understand. Like, if this is a problem between you, the government, and your family, what does public opinion have to do with any of this? Why are you doing this interview?
I mean, he's got to stay relevant and sell his wife's stuff.
So it's like, jab. Oh, the life. So, the other question this brings up is why just the UK? He doesn't have a problem taking his wife to places that have travel advisories on them, like Colombia, Nigeria. They had these fake royal tours in Colombia and Nigeria in the last couple of years. where they like went and did everything that a royal would do on like a Commonwealth tour, where you just like you show up, you inspect the troops, you
Wait,
he
like they did
inspected
that?
he inspected the troops in Nigeria.
Who is he to do that?
He doesn't represent anybody.
He's just a guy.
He's this guy.
And
You go,
they're like, you want to inspect the troops? You have no qualifications. Wonderful.
he, they like they have different events set up where like
Oh my god.
people show off their culture in front of them. They go to talks, they visit charities. But you're like, if even like Angelina Jolie is known for her charitable work. Even if she showed up somewhere for 3 days and brought a whole bunch of press with her, we would be like, what is she doing? Why are we watching her parade around this foreign country for 3 days?
Right. And inspect the troops. What? Like that for me that alone, because like it's one thing to go somewhere and do like charitable work or to see a talk, but like to do something that's like on a more like military level,
Yeah. This
like
is straight up
that's weird.
state visit. I am a head of state visiting your head of state, and we're going to do the state things, even though I represent nobody. I am Harry from California.
But I'm desperate for power.
And the other thing of it is they travel all the time to many other places, Germany, Canada, the UK. I don't think he's ever been to the UK in the last few years and announced that he was going. But all these other places, we know he's going to be there weeks in advance. Why would you do that?
Right?
Like I'm going to go to this other country. I'm going to be in this specific location for a specific event, but I'm very worried about my security.
Right?
La la la. He tries to say that the taxpayers should care because he served his country for 35 years. He's like 40. He's counting his
I
childhood.
was gonna say, I'm like, you didn't? No, no.
And that he went to Afghanistan to defend his country, which is like kudos. That doesn't mean you get IPP status.
I was gonna say, I'm like, people do that all the fucking time.
And then he was trying to equate it to prime ministers and presidents, how they get security after they leave the post.
Oh my god. Oh
And
my
it's
god.
like, you're not an elected official. We're going off of you as a royal member, a royal family member. We're going to compare you to other royal family members. We're not equating you to the prime minister. And the last thing before we get into Megxit is that we do want to point out that he has offered to pay for Ravik security, but we can't start having rich people paying for police protection
Right.
because that
Is
it
the
like
big note.
it's not cool for regular people who can't afford that. So, I mean, it's already unfair to begin with, but whatever. To just have like Oprah Winfrey show up to the UK and pay for police protection.
That'd be funny though.
Eh.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. My next thing says, how did we get here?
How did we get here?
Did we get here? Because I don't think I'm ever gonna get the answer to this other than absolute. I don't know. I feel like with Megan, and okay, so how I feel about Megan and Harry, I'm more mad at Megan at any given time. I heard somebody say I might have a sexist take, but it's not how you think. It's more of like I expect more from her. But because like I think men can be stupid, but it's more on a individual level with these two because Megan was a private citizen before. She knows how to take care of herself. Harry doesn't know how to do anything because he hasn't had to. And now he's kind of freaking out that he doesn't have IPP status security. And that happened to his mom right before she died. And I just feel like Megan is using that. She's using the paranoia. She wants IPP status because wouldn't that be great?
I mean, fuck yeah.
Anyways, I tried to make this as concise as possible. I used many different sources because Harry and Meghan talk about this Megxit thing over multiple platforms, Netflix, the book Spare. I had to go read actual news articles from the time for a third point of view that wasn't these two people. But he said when they left in November 2019. They
Okay.
went from the UK to a house on Vancouver Island. At the time, it was just to get away for a couple of months because they were so like on the brink of leaving. And they, at that point, for a minimum of 2 years, he says, they had already been trying to rework their place in the family. They really wanted to do half in, half out. And you really can't do that because if you make money while being a working member of the royal family, you are 100% using your title and your place in the family to monetize that, like to make money.
Right.
You can't avoid it. And you also, as a taxpayer in the country, you don't want your royal family to be, I don't know, sponsored by Tesco.
No?
No.
Your president's going to be sponsored by Qatar here shortly. It's fine.
Oh, God.
You can do whatever the hell you want. You can buy whoever you want. Duh.
Right. So I figured they've been talking about this before they even got married, which is wild. Why? Why? Why would you get married and then try to figure this out? I would have sat
Get
down with
the
the
perks of
family.
getting married as a royal.
Yeah. But like if I was this concerned about my safety, my mental health, and whatever, I would not get married to this family and then try to figure out how to
How to
change
leave?
it.
Yeah. No.
Okay. So I think my next slide is the house. Um,
The house.
the house. And it is actually owned by David Foster, who's a musician, director, not director, like composer, producer. Apparently, it's been mentioned that Harry and David Foster have like a father-son relationship.
Okay.
I don't know. Uh, David Foster is married to Catherine McPhee. Do you know Catherine McPhee?
Yeah.
From American Idol and like a couple of TV shows and whatnot.
I'm pretty sure
You know the name.
I do know the name, but I gotta see her face.
Is this the
What?
video? I hate when the video starts black and I can't remember if it's the one I want. Um, so Megan and Catherine McPhee actually went to musical theater school together,
Okay.
but they more got to stay at their house on Vancouver Island because of Harry's connection. But I just thought it was interesting that they both know both people in the couple.
Hmm.
So I have this clip, and I just thought this clip was interesting. This clip is a few months, I think it's March of 2019. Yeah, it's March of 2019. So it's 8 months before Harry and Meghan say, "Hey, can we stay at your island house?" So she's talking about Meghan.
Having an American princess is mind blowing.
Yeah,
Some people here.
we love it. We love it in the States too. I think we're fascinated with the
I hope
royals.
she's okay. She's getting this. Some of the papers are getting.
Yeah, but you know,
Awful. Yeah, they're doing this sort of Dukes of Hazzard thing
I
on
think
her.
she's a very smart girl. She had to have known that that was what it was going to eventually do, because that's what they do in the beginning. They're so excited. They build you up. They do that with even celebrity, you know, regular celebrity. They always think you're so amazing, and then slowly but surely they'll try to
Yeah.
keep filling their clickbait and their newspapers. And I think she's doing pretty great though.
I just really like that clip because she is me. I also thought, you joined the royal family. What the fuck did you think was going to happen? Like, the press is eventually going to pick on you relentlessly for years.
Right? It's kind of their jam.
It really just, it threw Meghan for a loop.
Especially because she already also like was obviously not a ton. She wasn't super like famous, but like she was already like somewhat talked about occasionally. Again, not a ton,
I mean,
but
she did interviews.
right. So like I don't know why she seems so surprised that like this is how things go.
I don't think she was.
She's playing it up.
Just, I don't think she was. Anyways, so they go to this island to get away. Late December, Harry decides that it is time to put the pressure on his father to hash out how they're going to be rearranging their role in the family. I think that's really super great to do that around Christmas time. Way to ruin Christmas.
Love it.
You're a real gem. On the Netflix show, is it Harry and Meghan or Meghan and Harry? Either way, it doesn't matter.
Those two.
I end up saying Mary and Hagen, so whatever. Harry says that they want to leave because they don't want it to be dependent on taxpayer funding, so they can escape the excuse of public interest. Like, people can't say, we pay you, so we get to take pictures of you. We pay you, we get to ask you lots of questions about your life. I'm just going to say that celebrities deal with this anyways, and he's dealing with this crap now and not getting any taxpayer money. So I don't understand what he thought was going to be different. He
Honestly,
thought that they
right.
would be able to make their money independently while still having the taxpayers pay for their security. We didn't include that because he says, you get us, like you get us representing the crown, and you get us for free. Except for my IPP status security. Do not take that away from me.
I'm not asking for much.
Charles tells him that he has to put the plan that he wants to have in writing because this is going to have to go through government because it involves people's taxes. Harry doesn't really want to put it in writing. He eventually does because he says that he's done this before where he puts a plan in writing, he gives it to his dad, it ends up in the press. Why do you care if it ends up in the press? If it's going to go through government, it's going to go in the press eventually anyways.
I was gonna say, I'm like, if it's going through government, then it's technically public record.
So, he, at this point, it's again, like I said, around Christmas time. Then Harry's sending his dad multiple emails and his dad's not answering because he's taking a break. He doesn't want to talk about this right now. At this point, Harry and Meghan say that they're willing to relinquish their Sussex titles, which I find hilarious with how much Meghan throws it in our faces all the time.
You're right.
The she is the Duchess of Sussex.
That's us.
That's. And I know this is around Christmas time because by the time he sends it, well, I don't know. Dan Wooten could be lying. Dan Wooten used to work for The Sun. He now has his own YouTube channel because he's kind of he's not my favorite person. He's a little bit slimy. And when he worked at The Sun, he's the one that broke the news that Megxit was happening. And he claims that he had been in communication with the Sussex's communications people from their office, and that he has an email from December 26th where they told him that things were not hashed out yet, but it was tentative that they were going to leave. So, January 5th, Harry and Meghan fly back to the UK with the intention of sitting down with the family and figuring this stuff out. Just before, I don't know if it was on the 6th or early on the 7th, Harry's communications people tell him that they'd give him a heads up that Dan Wooten's going to announce to the world that they're trying to rearrange their role in the family. And I don't know why Harry doesn't see that in order for them to know that, they would have to know the person in communication with Dan Wooten.
Right.
Because Harry blames this on either it's Kate and Williams' communications officer, Jason Knopf, because he also used to work with the Sussexes and he doesn't like them, or it's somebody on Charles's team who got nosy and saw the information and leaked it to the press. I think it was Harry's own office. I might just have to go with Dan Wooten on this one, even if I don't like him. So, Harry writes in Spare that he hears that the press is going to say something. He wants to get ahead of the game and have their team post something on Instagram before Dan Wooten can do it, but then he just doesn't feel like it and he just lets it happen. But the next day, they get in a room with 6 people and they make an Instagram post. And I'm going to have you, if you can read it. I don't know if it's too small.
No, you're good. Okay. After many months of reflection and internal discussions, we have chosen to make a transition this year in starting to carve out a progressive new role within this institution. We intend to step back as quote-unquote senior members of the royal family and work to become financially independent while continuing to fully support Her Majesty the Queen. It is with your encouragement, particularly over the last few years, that we feel prepared to make this adjustment. We now plan to balance our time between the United Kingdom and North America, continuing to honor our duty to the Queen, the Commonwealth, and our patronages. Patronages?
It doesn't really matter.
I was going to say, I don't feel like it matters, but when I feel like I'm reading about British stuff, I feel like I have to say it in a patronages.
I've heard it both ways.
So have I, but like I said, it's funny, when I read a word like that in a context like this, my brain's make it the way that fits the context. Anyways, okay. This geographic balance will enable us to raise our son with an appreciation for the royal tradition into which he was born, while also providing our family with the space to focus on the next chapter, including the launch of our new charitable entity. We look forward to sharing the full details of this exciting new step in due course as we continue to collaborate with Her Majesty the Queen, the Prince of Wales, the Duke of Cambridge, and all relevant parties. Until then, please accept our deepest thanks for your continued support. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex. For more information, please visit sussexroyal.com. Link in bio.
Right. So they also launch sussexroyal.com, which has lots of information on what they think is going to happen.
Is it still active?
Like, it does have a little blurb when you open it that says if you want recent information, you have to go to, I think it's sussex.com is their new thing, because when they agreed to leave, part of the agreement is they cannot use the word royal on anything that they do.
That's
So they
funny.
had to abandon it. So, on the Wayback Machine, I had to go to January 8th when they first published this page to go to the specific part about security. You want to read their little blurb about security?
The whole thing or just the thing you have highlighted?
The whole thing.
Okay. Does their future financial autonomy extend to covering the cost of security?
No!
The provision of armed security by the Metropolitan Police is mandated by the Home Office, a ministerial department of Her Majesty's government responsible for security and law. Responsible for security and law and order. I read the first one so good, so well.
You're doing great, sweetie.
Thanks. Okay. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex are classified as internationally protected people, which mandates this level of security. As stated on gov.uk, no breakdown of security costs is available, as disclosure of such information could compromise the integrity of these arrangements and affect the security of the individuals protected. It is long established policy not to comment upon the protective security arrangements and their related costs for members of the royal family or their residences.
So I find that to be one of the most sticky parts of this conversation, is that we can't talk about details about security because it would compromise other people's security.
It would compromise security.
So everybody sees this because they've posted on Instagram that they've published a website, and there's just pages and pages of this stuff, but everybody focuses on the part that I highlighted. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex are classified as internationally protected people. And everybody was like, oh, so you want everywhere you go, taxpayers to pay for your security, but you're doing this breaking away from the family to earn money individually and independently and not
rely on
burden the taxpayers? That's contradictory. So then we go to January 10th without saying anything. The new blurb, it's the same blurb. They've just literally taken out that one sentence that says that they are
internationally protected. Oh,
isn't that cute?
Interesting.
So they realize that people don't want them to have that if they're not going to work for the family.
Right.
Because they removed it from their website.
Hysterical.
So, that's the 10th. January 13th is when Sandringham Summit happens. Harry claims they get there on the 5th, right? Harry claims that the entire time they're there, they're trying to get the necessary people together for this meeting, and their request keeps getting rejected.
What?
Right. So, okay, your request is getting rejected. This next part I don't understand even more. Meghan says she has to go back to Vancouver Island to be with Archie, their child.
Right.
Why is Harry still there if he's not going to have a meeting? Why did he not go home with Meghan to be with the bebe?
Right.
Because he says that after Meghan left, that's when they said, hey, you want to have a meeting? We can have it right now. Which is trying to make it seem like the family just didn't want to have it with Meghan. But I'm starting to wonder, because I still don't know why Harry's still there. Did they tentatively have something set up? Meghan went back in hopes that they would have some sort of phone conference meeting that she could record or something. Because I don't remember where I saw it at this point, so I can't directly quote it, but I think somebody said along the way that they wanted, oh, it was Meghan. It was Meghan. Meghan
Mm.
Meghan said that they didn't even want to do a conference call because she was upset that she wasn't going to be involved in something that was going to affect her life and the life of her children. Something seems squirrely to me.
Right.
Also, I don't like any situation where Harry is the only one of the two of them that is in a discussion with the family and then he has to relay information.
Clearly an unreliable narrator as well.
Yeah.
This feels like, okay. This feels like when you have an elderly parent and you send them to go to the doctor alone. And
Yeah.
nobody's there to like also hear the story from the doctor,
Yeah.
like what's going on. And then they come home and you're like, okay, Dad, how did it go? And Dad goes, I don't know.
They told me I'm gonna die.
Right? And you're like, well, what's going on? I don't know. Well, what are the treatment options? I don't know.
Yeah. It's a lot like that. Which is it's connecting to something else. I'm not gonna get into it. It's a whole nother topic. I'm just don't let me derail.
That's our whole
So
thing.
Harry goes to the meeting. In Spare, he describes it as like they have 5 options. One on one end being nothing changes, you just stay senior royals. We forget this ever happened. The other end of the spectrum is what we have now. You're completely
Out.
you're out. In or out. There's apparently 3 in, half out options. I don't know how you have 3 different ones, but
Right.
okay. Harry's like, I want number 3, literally half in, half out. He describes that the meeting isn't really going his way, that they're just kind of like, if you want to be out, you can be out. And he's like, no, that's not what I want.
I still want
I
the
just want
perks.
I still want to I just want to live in North America and then pop over here and do the fun stuff. And don't forget my security. I want my IPP status. And I think eventually he gave up on the whole representing the family business and was just like the last hour of the meeting was them trying to explain to him you cannot have taxpayer funded police protection 24/7 and not work for the family and not live here.
Not really sure what you're not understanding.
Yeah. So the Queen posts this on the royal site the day of the summit. You could read it, please.
Okay. Published the 13th of January 2020. Today my family had very constructive discussions on the future of my grandson and his family. My family and I are entirely supportive of Harry and Meghan's desire to create a new life as a young family. Although we would have preferred them to remain full-time working members of the royal family, we respect and understand their wish to live a more independent life as a family while remaining a valued part of my family. How many times can we say family?
Family.
Harry and Meghan have made it clear that they do not want to be reliant on public funds in their new lives. It has therefore been agreed that there will be a period of transition in which the Sussexes will spend time in Canada and the UK. These are complex matters for my family to resolve, and there is some work to be done, but I have asked for the final decisions to be reached in the coming days.
So this kind of, I don't know about you, but to me, it sounds like she's leaning towards they're on the way out.
Right.
Like they're a valued part of my family, genetics wise.
Right, but they're not going to remain full-time members of the royal family. They've made it clear they don't want to be reliant on public funds. Therefore, we agree that they will transition and go away.
Emphasis on, like, the line Harry and Meghan have made clear they do not want to be reliant on public funds in their new lives. Has its own sentence, its own paragraph. It is.
Right, there's nothing else with it.
What do you think taxpayer funded security is? That is reliant on public funds.
Right.
So there's that. 5 days later, this is on the Sussex website.
Okay. After many months of reflection and internal discussions, we have chosen to make a transition this year in starting to carve out a progressive new role within this institution. We intend to step back as senior members of the royal family and work to become financially independent while continuing to fully support Her Majesty the Queen. It is with your encouragement, particularly over the last few years, that we feel prepared to make this adjustment. We now plan to balance our time between the United Kingdom and North America, continuing to honor our duty to the Queen, the Commonwealth, and our patronages. This geographic balance will enable us to raise our son with an appreciation for the royal tradition into which he was born, while also providing our family with the space to focus on the next chapter, including the launch of our new charitable entity. We look forward to sharing the full details of this exciting next step in due course as we continue to collaborate with Her Majesty the Queen, the Prince of Wales, the Duke of Cambridge, and all relevant parties. Until then, please accept our deepest thanks for your continued support. Oh, hey, this was from the Instagram post.
So it's the Instagram post from 10 days ago, but we've added on the end an emphasis on we want to collaborate with the family still.
Right?
And the same day, Buckingham Palace posts a new
Oh,
thing.
no. Following many months of conversations and more recent discussions, I am pleased that together we have found a constructive and supportive way forward for my grandson and his family. Harry, Meghan, and Archie will always be much loved members of my family. I recognize the challenges they have experienced as a result of intense scrutiny over the last 2 years and support their wish for a more independent life. I want to thank them for all their dedicated work across the country, the Commonwealth, and beyond, and am particularly proud of how Meghan has so quickly become one of the family. It is my whole family's hope that today's agreement allows them to start building a happy and peaceful new life.
Goodbye.
I was going to say, that feels very, see you later. We're not
That was very
collaborating.
much, we saw your post. We love you much. Goodbye. I don't think you're getting it. This is why I think
The track
Whatever
featuring the
was-
Queen is no longer.
whatever was happening in that meeting, I don't think Harry was getting it.
Another one.
No, I think that's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is
That's
the same thing.
Why is it not letting me go? 3 days later, we will not read all this.
Oh, thank goodness.
3 days later, Duke and Duchess post this on their website. Basically, they're still saying that they're transitioning to a revised role, that they're going to have a 12-month review. Again, says that there's precedent for a royal family member being half in, half out. And you can click on the word precedent, and it takes you to another page on the website where it again does not tell you any examples. So I emphasize this one part because it is actually about security. which Cassie might want to read.
Okay. I'm in a loop now because I'm on the website. Okay.
Oh, no.
Well, it's just funny. They have all these like links and they just loop around to each other.
Yeah.
Like nobody's answering the question. They're just like, look.
If you take the time to read this stupid website, there's a few moments where it says, please keep coming back to this page for the correct information. Essentially, like, we hold the truth. Don't read the papers. Things are misreported. Keep coming back here for the truth.
And also, it can change in the meantime.
It's gross.
All right. It is agreed that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex will continue to require effective security to protect them and their son. This is based on the Duke's public profile by virtue of being born into the royal family, his military service, and the Duchess's own independent profile, and the shared threat and risk level documented specifically over the last few years. No further details can be shared as this is classified information for safety reasons.
Right. So on their website on February 21st, they say they're going to still require IPP status. They're afraid to say IPP status because the last time they said it, they had to remove it from the website because it made people mad. Within the next couple of weeks after this, Harry's going to get a text that his Royal Canadian Mountie Police is going to be removed because he's no longer going to have IPP status as of March 31st. The family, the Sussexes, go into panic mode. They realize not only are they not going to have their police protection, I don't think they have figured out how to get private protection yet because they were just hoping that if they kept announcing to people that they were going to have police protection, that it would just keep happening. Like, if we just keep saying it out loud,
we'll just
they can't take it away from us. Yeah. This is our vision board.
All over the internet.
So they are completely unprepared. Even though they said they've been talking about this stuff for a couple of years, they have no plan. I'm sorry, as a grown-ass adult, I am 36 years old. I am about the age that they were when they decided to do all this crap. Meghan, who is not a highly dependent royal, who is a person who has been independent a lot of her life, would also know that when you need to make a big life change like this, you need to prepare yourself.
You would think.
You cannot just
wing it.
Throw everything out the window. So, the next part of the plan, I don't agree with, but whatever. This is where Tyler Perry comes in.
What?
Plot twist. So, when Meghan was getting married, she got a text message from Tyler Perry, who thought she was going to be like the next Princess Diana, and he was like, I see what's happening. I'm here for you if you need anything. She never texts him back. Until right now. Harry and Meghan now decide to text him back and be like, hey, remember you said I could lean on you for anything? Help us. Not only are we losing our security, COVID is about to crack down. They're going to close the borders. We're going to be trapped here. I don't know why they're afraid of getting trapped in Canada.
Right, out of all the places.
But I guess this is the only person they figured was wealthy enough to help them out of their situation.
Imagine asking Medea.
Oh, yeah.
Flee Canada.
So he offers up a house that he has in California and lets them use his security as long as they need until they can get their feet underneath them, you know? They're just...
They're going to have to pull themselves up by the bootstraps.
They're just so poor.
And so well.
Vulnerable.
Oh.
I think. Oh, I find it interesting. Harry claims he's made this decision as a father and a husband to really protect his family, when really it's a guy who randomly texted his wife before his wedding. You're just like, I don't know this person,
But I'm gonna
and
ask
I'm gonna
you.
trust my entire family with him and his security. Wild. It is now at this point that the Sussex and Cambridge offices have officially split. They are not the same communications office anymore.
Okay, so the website. We're now from Sussex Royal to Sussex.
Well, Sussex Royal was them starting to break off from the Royal Foundation, because the Royal Foundation was all four of them, the Cambridges and the Sussexes. When they realized they weren't getting along anymore and that eventually something was going to happen with the Sussexes, um, that's when the Sussexes made Sussex Royal, and it was going to be a Sussex Royal Foundation, but then they couldn't use Royal anymore.
Got it. Okay.
March 31st, securities pulled. Then I wrote that they either did not understand slash do not understand in the present time the terms of their situation, or they chose to keep putting their truth out there hoping it'll stick, which I think I said a little bit ago.
I mean, it's a common theme. It comes up a lot.
I quoted, because I was not allowed an official role and eventually decided to remove myself from the institution, my life was devalued from the highest score to the lowest score overnight. That's from Harry's interview about the Ravik decision.
Okay.
Because he was not allowed an official role and eventually decided to remove himself. He claims that he no longer has the same risk score. Which again, we decided that's stupid. They assess your risk every time you go.
I was gonna say, I'm like, we've pretty much figured that out.
Oh, I think next is Megan from that interview I told you to not watch because you'll gouge your eyeballs out.
Wonderful.
I took a quote.
Watch me do it live.
And this is how I think everything that goes wrong with this family goes wrong.
Okay.
I think a lot of it is being a soundboard, especially because I don't read media or press.
Yeah.
I'm a good barometer of just sometimes maybe just a very removed point of view because I'm only looking at it through the lens of loving him.
Yeah.
What's in his best and highest good? What's in the best interest for us as a family? What will help nurture him and help him find balance?
Yeah.
So I think in that regard, I can hear it through a different lens because my opinion isn't colored by anything other than what I know from him and what I can see for our future.
So if it's true, which I highly doubt, that she doesn't pay attention to the news and what people say because she seems highly offended all the time. And she's always trying to clap back and prove people wrong.
Right.
But if you're not taking into account what the public think about you and your decisions, but your entire livelihood is based on people buying things from you and liking you to some degree, don't you think that's a poor way to make decisions?
Right. And you and I would think that.
So I just think, like, business wise, they haven't made great decisions, and you could see why. She's not getting any sort of exterior input. And then, like, family wise, they're not listening to anybody. They're just doing what they want to do, and then
Right.
wondering why nobody's agreeing with them.
She's not
I don't know.
colored by anybody's opinions. She's purely her own person.
It's so stupid.
It's not accurate. We're all colored by something.
Yeah.
Like, even so, okay, but like, put it this way: even if she's not like consuming the meat, like, even though I don't, we know this is bullshit, but like, even if she was not consuming the media,
hmm
if she was just bumbling through the world,
hmm Well, I mean, apparently she just fell into a marriage in the royal family.
and I had
That
no
just
idea,
happened.
but like, you're still colored by your experiences up to that point.
Yeah.
You've still interacted with people and been an actress on a show in Hollywood. Like, you know how
You
people,
have to collaborate with people on a show.
right, and you know how people are. Like,
Right.
you are
But then,
not
like,
this like Buddhist monk who walked out of the Himalayas and is like, wow, people
yeah.
talk.
Yeah. But also, it's like when it comes to decisions on trying to get the public on your side on stuff, trying to get people to buy your products because you're what's the word? Oh my God. Influencer.
Mm.
You're an influencer now. And you turn the comments off on your Instagram. So you can't let anybody comment on anything. You can't read what people are thinking. You claim you don't read the news. Then in your family life, you've cut off your entire family except for like your mom and your sister's um so her sister Samantha has a daughter. So it's technically Megan's niece, but Samantha and her daughter don't talk, so Megan decided she was going to start talking to her daughter, which I think is real weird.
That feels very out of place.
Yeah, out of pocket.
That feels like the time that my mom took you to get your ears pierced in Claire's. And then was like, sorry, oopsies.
Well, that was funny though.
I mean, it worked out great for you. And then I
Yeah.
accidentally stole something and I was so upset.
You were a child. It's fine.
I know, but I felt I had, because I bought a pair of boots or something and there was like earrings in the boots and my ears weren't even pierced. So it wasn't even something I would take, but I was so upset. I'm like, I stole.
I think at Claire's though, there's earrings and everything.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So they're very just secluded people who want to live a public life and it's not working and it doesn't make sense. And I hate all of it. The only other thing that I have to say about this is that you're watching Harry's interview with the BBC where he looks exhausted and so put down about the fact that he can't get this IPP status. And he just feels like he's been rejected by his family and his country. And then you have Megan doing the stupid Jamie Kern Lima interview where everything is great and I'm so wonderful and you're so wonderful and everything is lovely. And she did that Time 100 interview and she said we're the happiest we've ever been. There's a serious disconnect. What are you looking at?
I'm looking at Jamie currently now because I'm like, where do I know her from? Why have I seen
I
her
don't know.
face before?
She had It Cosmetics and she sold it to L'Oreal for like $1.2 billion. And now she does self-help books. Which I want to know, I watch.
She
I
was
don't know
on
if you've
Big
seen.
Brother. That's where I feel like maybe I've.
Did you? Do you get any royal stuff suggested to you on YouTube yet?
I don't watch enough YouTube for that to happen.
Okay, so there's a journalist named Kinsey Schofield, and she's in LA, and she talks about Meghan and Harry and the royals a lot. One thing she said about Jamie Kern Lima that I mildly agree with is that because I was saying how like it's that whole self-help group of people that I just can't stand because they're profiting off of people not feeling good about themselves. Like you don't even
With,
have the
I
credentials.
was
You
gonna say,
just
I'm like with
went
no credentials to help these people.
right. And she's one of them, but Kinsey was also pointing out the fact that she's also making money. Well, she was making money off of people's insecurities by selling them makeup because she made makeup. She made it cosmetics to cover up her rosacea.
I was just reading that.
Um, I would like to do an episode on Jamie Kern Lima because I have lots of other things to say, but it doesn't make any sense here. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to say like I agree slightly with the makeup stuff, even though a lot of us wear makeup and it's not that big of a deal. I think the biggest problem with her is actually writing a book called Worthy, where she's telling you how to find your self-worth. And during this interview with Megan, she has one copy behind Megan and two copies behind Jamie. And she has like 5 commercials in this stupid interview to get you to buy this book.
I also saw her on Shark Tank. That was. I'm like, I feel like I've seen her in something more recent, and I remember being like, I don't like you.
I don't like you. Please stop smiling like that.
Well, she was just one of
Right.
the people that like. So I love Shark Tank, love it. One of my things that I appreciate though is like when they actually give people advice, like even if they don't like invest in somebody, like if they can give them solid advice. And she was just one of those people who's just like, it's not for me, I'm out. Like there was no like, substance. Um,
Lens.
and like at least the other women tend to do that. Like I mean, the women who were there all the time, like she was just a guest judge, or not a guest judge, but a guest shark. But I just remember watching her and being like, why are you here? Other than the fact that you made money once and a lot of it. Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, I have other things that I could go on about with her, but that would absorb too much time. Do you want to take a water break?
I want
Because
to.
I'm out of water.
I want to take a nap break.
Oh, you're gonna die.
I'm gonna die because I have to imagine that the Charles stuff is long too.
It's okay. We're about halfway on the notes.
And it's been about an hour and a half.
Okay, so we're actually going to end the episode here because it's been really long and we haven't even gotten to King Charles.
We both know that that's like it's just not gonna be a quick conversation.
No, he's been around for a while, so there's a lot
But
to
a lot
talk
of
about.
stuff. I mean, granted, we can take the Diana stuff out at this point, but like,
Yeah, well, with Diana, we didn't even bother doing the news.
right? Exactly.
So, we're gonna stop here. If you would like to, like we mentioned at the beginning, even though I try not to, if you're still listening, could you please give us a like? Maybe write us a little comment below so that we know that you are still listening.
Unless it's mean, and then keep it to yourself.
I mean, you could just put a little crown emoji if you don't want to say anything.
Fabulous. Love that. Crown
That'd be
emojis.
nice.
That's it.
Crown emojis. You can find us on Instagram. I will put our link tree is in the bio. And I'll put my email in the description of this video, so if you want to write us an email, you can do that. Other than that, I think we're gonna head out. We're gonna peace out, and we'll come back with Charles next time.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, bye.
Bye.